Okay, hello everyone. Hope everyone is doing great. I started recording this lab and I'll try to post it after we finish today. So there are a few things, few reminder that I wanted to let you know. First of all, your result from test one is or midterm one is online. We do use a curve. So it you so I looked at the chart that Dr. Laughran posted. Um, I think um, the curve it's pretty generous. So because quite few people got lower scores, so that kind of helped to adjust the curves. Um, I think it's about, I think, if I remember correctly, you're gonna get extra 10 to 15 points on your scores, thanks to the curve in the entire class. It's a big class, so the curves always favors. If you so the main purpose of the curve is that so it gives you a chance to pass the class, but if you're serious about your future in if you wanted to stay in academia, you don't want to pass the class with C. So you still have a chance on the test coming and on the homework assignments. If you've been participating in lab and getting those extra credit, little by little, it all helps. I think most people in my lab, you guys did perfect. There are a few people that I was really impressed. You guys were really good in answering the question, especially the short answer question, because some of them I graded. Um, yeah, good job. And that's all I wanted to cover. So if you haven't seen your grade or your midterm scores, you can go on the Canvas page and take a look at it. If you did on your raw score, if you get like 50 points, before curves, it's going to increase to, I think, 70%. So that's like C in the class. So you're good, but you want to pick up the pace um, for your next midterm. So there is still a chance. You still can bring up your grades. You just have to really buckle down and study for your next one coming and be on time with the assignments, exercises, and everything. So there are still a lot of points. Don't get a cold feet. If you didn't do as well as you wished on the first exam. The exercise number 3, you can redo it to earn points up to 80%, or 80 points, not 80%. So if you are someone who did badly on the exercise 3, there's a chance for you to redo it. But if you got a point that is like 75, 76 or something like that, and you want to redo it because the limit or the ceiling for that is 80 points, I wouldn't really waste time on redoing it because you can focus that time or devote that time to study for your test. So because there's not much of a difference. But if you're someone who did really bad and really poorly on the exercise 3, there's a chance for you to redo the assignment to get a higher grade up to 80 points. And that is due. Let's look at Dr. Laughran assignments, announcements. So if you haven't taken a look at it. So if you go on the Canvas page, let me go ahead and share my screen. So there are a few announcements that I found really helpful. So let's see which one was that. So I would go for week 6, week 7 announcement. So if you take a look at this one, you'll see that Let me see, is this the one that she talks of? Okay, yeah. So exercise 3, you can improve your grades. There is a deadline by 11 a.m. on Friday. So now the Friday is the same Friday that you guys have your midterm. So you have to organize your time so you can, I would really focus on the midterm, and then you try to do this on the side. So if you want to redo your exercise 3 for a better grade, there's a deadline 11 a.m. by Friday, this Friday. Okay. And next Wednesday after your test, your exercise number 5 is due. So I would really get going on that one after your test, because the deadlines for that is approaching rapidly after your midterm. So so about your midterm 2, it is this Friday at 11 a.m. and it's the same setting of your midterm 1, so there's nothing changed. From 11 a.m. you log on, use the respondees on the Canvas. 60 minutes, you get multiple choice questions, short answer questions. You might get graphs. There are questions that mentioned in the lecture, and there are questions similar to the review question that we're going to cover today. So you really want to, this class doesn't work. Yes, questions?
Is this second midterm, will it be like cumulative, or will we only covering the stuff after that we cover after the first midterm?
It's gonna use some points. I think it's gonna be, I don't know. I think it's gonna be cumulative, but it heavily focuses on the stuff that we covered on the second half after the midterm. So you might go back on your test and make sure that you understand everything. I will give you an announcement on, I will post it. Let me ask Dr. Laughran, because I'm not sure. I want to say it's cumulative, but I'm not sure. Don't take me on that. It could be based on the previous years. Yeah, there are questions that appeared from the first half of the class that you needed to have some sort of understanding to be able to understand the question on the second half. But since everything changed due to COVID and being online and everything, so I'm not sure what is she designing right now. So I'll ask her, and I'll leave an announcement on the Canvas page so you guys know. Any other question?
Just another quick question, like for the last midterm, like the review material you gave us like near the end really helped. Do you think you're gonna do that again this test? Because it really helped me like narrow down the topic. Yes. And help me like memorize stuff. Okay. Yeah. So I was wondering, definitely. You're gonna like, yeah, okay. So, okay, thank you.
Yes, definitely. We're gonna do the some of the review questions this session during our lab. So I'm trying to focus heavily on the midterm during our lab, and I will create a page on Canvas, and I'll ask you guys to submit something so I can know, so it shows me who attended for your points, and I'll leave that open till 11:59 based on something that I do, something that we do in the lab today. So as I was saying, the midterm is going to be the same setting. You have to log on Friday, 11 a.m. to 12 noon. You've got 60 minutes or so to start the exam. And please remember this, because it happens every time. If you run into any kind of problems, any power outage, or anything, your laptop dies or anything like that, do not press submit on your exam, because once you do, you're stuck with whatever that you submitted. There's no way that Dr. Laughran or anyone can go and open up your test. So it's best to reach out when you sense there's a problem via email to Dr. Laughran, especially because TAs, we don't have any access to do anything. So she's going to be online during that time. So send her a response as soon as you feel that there is a glitch or any problem, because you don't want to jeopardize that. And make sure that you take care of that. She's pretty fast on responding because she's going to be online monitoring the email and on the test and everything. So if you found a problem or anything like that, do send her an email, and hopefully that'll be taken care of. Any other questions? So let me go ahead and stop the share. As far as what we are going to do today, we will be doing some review questions. Week 6 and 7. There's one more thing that I wanted to mention. This class, it's because it's one of those upper division classes. To be able to prepare for the exam, it's not about memorizing, the answers and the choices and everything, but really to understand it. Because the review question that we're going to do today together, the similar area that we're going to cover, it's going to show up on the exam for sure, but it's not going to be the same question, so really memorizing the stuff in this course won't do you any good, but really understanding the area that is going to be covered on the test, and really understanding the main points and the interaction, main effects, the theory that the book and the review question are trying to get at, really understanding the meaning of everything and the theories that we cover, that'll do you some good on the exam. So it's not really about memorizing the answers, it's really about understanding the questions. And then if you feel that in that particular area you're lacking, or you're not as good, then I would highly suggest to go back on the book, on the lecture videos, and really try to master that, that area or that section. Any questions, concern, comments before we get going? No? Okay, so first off, what we're gonna do, I wanna cover review questions for week 6 and 7. I ask you guys in chat to please go ahead and download that for both week 6 and 7. We are going to do the same routine, but a little different this time, because I want everyone to be able to work on this question individually. So I'm not going to divide you guys for this first section into the groups. I want everyone to be working on the questions, and I will be calling individual name, and then I want you guys to give us the answer that you think is right for the particular question. So did everyone download the week 6 and week 7 review questions? Yes, no, maybe? Awesome. So let's every person go ahead and work on the questions for week 6 and 7. I'll give you guys about 30 minutes. I want you guys to cover it. Each question, if you don't know the answer, or if you can't find the answer, go ahead and guess, and we will cover it in class together. Okay. So right now it's 3:25. I will give you guys till 4, and then we're gonna come back as a class and cover it together. Okay.
Are we also doing the short answer questions too?
Yes, everything.
Okay.
So week 6 and week 7, every question. Okay. All right, let's begin now. Let's do 30 minutes. And then towards the end of the 30 minutes, I will divide you guys in groups so you can compare your answers and discuss it together. So, but the first 30 minutes, I want you guys to do it on your own. Okay. All right.
I agree with Aishwarya. I hope I pronounced that right. I'm Aish. But yeah, I think the answer is C for number 1.
Yes. So for number 1, so Aish, apparently your speaker is broken, but C is the correct answer for number 1. So C, internal, is the best answer for number 1. Number 2, let's go with, let me get you guys in order. So let's go with Jerry.
So for number 2, which of these is not an advantage within groups designs? I pick D, more statistical power.
Which one you said?
D.
I would go with A. So which one of these is not an advantage to within the group's design? I would go with A, elimination of practice effects. So A would be a better choice here. Let's go with number 3, Kang.
Number 3, I got B.
Yeah. So can you go ahead and read the question and then give us the answer?
Oh, sorry. A researcher assigned one classroom to a new educational program and one classroom to a comparison group. To be comparison group. Afterward, the researcher wonders whether the difference between the groups on post-test could be due to the different initial makeup of 2 classes. This researcher is wondering about which threat to validity, and I got B.
Yes, B, selection, is the best answer. So let's pick up the pace so we can get over this faster. So let's go with Giselle, number 4.
Random assignment cannot typically rule out which of the following threats to validity. C.
Not quite, but I would go with selection mortality first. So B is a better suited answer for number 4. Let's go with number 5. And Delhi, if I pronounce that right.
I went with D. They're not really variables.
So for number 5, which of the following not true for the control variable? And I would go with A. They help define the control group. So it says which one is not true. The one that is not true is the they help define the control group. Number 6, let's go with Yija Wu. Yija, are you there? All right, let's move on. Minju, number 6.
A threat to internal validity occurs only if a potential design confound varies blank with the independent variable. I think number B.
For number 6, yes, B, systematically is the best answer. So number 7, let's go with Victoria.
To be a history threat, the external event must occur, and I put, for the blank, I put, which one was it? 7 for B, systematically affecting most members of the group.
Yep, perfect. B is the best choice. Let's move on. Number 8. Well, who was the last person? Katie, that was you?
No, I haven't gone yet.
So let's, okay, Katie, let's number 8.
Okay. Which of the following cannot be found in a one group pre-test post-test design? C, a comparison group.
For number 8, yes, C is a perfect choice. Let's do number 9. Kang, can you do this one?
For number 9, which of the following studies would not have a possible threat of super bias? I got B, a study looking at the relationship between college GPA and SAT scores.
Yes. So for number 9, which one did you say?
B.
For number 9, yes, B is the perfect choice for that. Let's do number 10. I'll do the one for the Aisha. So which of the following is not true for testing effects? For number 10, I would go with A. It can be prevented by using a control group. So for 10A, let's go with Daydeli for number 11.
11, regression is especially problematic in which of the following situations? I picked letter B.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that one more time? You were breaking up for me.
Sorry, let me repeat myself. Regression is especially problematic in which of the following situations? I picked B, when one group has an extremely high score at the pretest.
Yes, for 11, B is the correct choice. Let's move on to 12. Giselle, number 12, please. Giselle, are you there?
Yes, sorry. I broke up when you said the name, so I didn't know. Number 12, right? Dr. Weststone is curious about how self-esteem changes as a result of new counseling program. She is concerned about testing threats in her study. Which of the following would you not recommend to her as a way to address this type of threat? I put A, collecting preset data twice.
Yep, that's perfect. Number 13. Let's go with Jerry.
Testing threats involve B, participants, whereas instrumentation threats involve measurements.
Yep, perfect. Number 14, Justin. Justin Doe, can you do number 14?
Content analysis of text, I say is D
For number 14, I would go with B.
or B, right?
They can either be qualitative or quantitative. Number 15, Katie, can you just do this one?
Yeah, events OXO. Although the design above can reveal effects of the treatment intervention X, this design cannot demonstrate that any difference between the observations O was caused by the treatment because it does not rule out which of the following threats to internal validity. I put C, maturation.
For number 15, I would go with E. So all of this, could be present.
Okay.
So let's do number 16. Victoria Williams. Can you do number 16?
Dr. John Snow is recognized as a father of epidemiology for his work with cholera. One of his studies establishing water supply as a source of this disease involved 2 water companies. Although he did not use randomization, this is viewed as a causal study. This means that the D, internal validity, was acceptable.
Perfect. Yes. 17, Minju, can you do number 17?
The addition of comparison group can address all of the following addressed to internal validity except I would say D, I mean B, maturation.
For number 17, D. If you said D, that's the correct answer. So yes,
Oh,
D is the correct answer for 17.
Is 17 B or D?
D right here. So D is the best answer choice for number 17. Let's do number 18. Jerry, can you do number 18?
Sure. Dr. LaGuardia is curious as to whether children in the daycare center will share more after watching educational video on sharing. Immediately before and after the video, he has several undergraduate research assistants code the sharing behavior of a group of 34-year-olds. Which of the following would you not recommend to him to decrease the threat of instrumentation? I put D, using only one research assistant to code all the videos.
Perfect. Yes, D is the best answer choice here. Number 19. Let's go with, I will do that. All of the following are true of ceiling and floor effects, except I would go with B on this one. So B, they are only problematic in pre-test and post-test design. That's for number 19. Let's do number 20, Daedal. Daedal, can you do number 19?
Yeah, sorry, I was trying to unmute myself. For
Actually,
20,
just did number 19, 20, yes.
20, okay. For number 20, I got A, both I and 1 and 2 are true.
For 20, A, so both I and the second one are true. Yes, A
Yes.
is the perfect choice here. Number 21, Gazelle, can you do number 21?
Yes. Which of the following is a technique that can be used to keep an extraneous variable from becoming a co-founding variable in a multiple group experiment? I did C, use random assignment to create the groups.
That's a good choice, but I would go with all of the above. The trick with the questions that have all of the above is that if you see two answers that are really closely relatable, and you can't really decide which one, it feels like both of them are true. Most likely in most tests, it's going to be all of the above. So
Okay.
one of them is there to throw you off, but if you can't decide between the two, answer choices, it's usually going to be, all of the above. Not in all cases, but in some cases. Number 22. Let's do Jerry. Can you do number 22?
What is truth design described below using the tic-tac-toe method notation? So first is ROXTO, and then ROXCO. I put D, statements A through C are all true of this design.
Yes, that's correct. Good job. Number 23, Justin.
I would say D.
Can you read the question, please?
Multiple group designs can be used to counteract the single group threats to internal validity because, and I believe it is all statements above are valid.
For number 23, I would go with C. So C is going to be a better answer choice here because these two are not really doing any, it doesn't really answer the question. So I would really go with C on here. So let's do the short-term, short answer questions. There are 3 of them. For the first one, use an example, identify and describe the three things that must be demonstrated to establish a causal relationship between the two variables. So for number 24, I would say it's the first one would be the temporal, precedence of the cause. The second one, covariation of the cause and effect. And for the third one, I would go with elimination of plausible alternative hypothesis. So that's for number 24. Let's do number 25. Day Dali, can you do number 25, please?
Okay. Describe the relationship between single group and multi-group threats to internal validity. How is that how is it by incorporating multiple groups into a design we can eliminate a single group threats but not the multiple group threats? So basically it's single group, you just kind of, it's quite self-explanatory, honey has one group, but the purpose of having a multi-group is to have basically different groups to test under, to compare with each other, so we can find a statistical significance with a significance and a difference between the groups. And a single group is kind of more just based on other kinds of threats, like I think either history threat or other kinds of threats that kind of don't really describe what will change between the single group versus the multiple group, where you can inspect them based on change over time, over testing and whatnot.
Yeah, you got caught up right in the middle.
Okay, I'm sorry about that. In multiple groups, you can observe them over time as well, versus a single group where you kind of just observe them, get results and then observe them again. And that also eliminates those kind of threats like history threats, I think test attribution threats, maturation threats, and multiple groups won't really have those kind of threats if you observe them over time as well.
Perfect. Yes, that was actually correct. Yes. So the idea behind the multiple groups or a multiple group thread is that one of these mechanisms apply to some subset of the group. So thus creating a confound with the treatment differences between the groups would be helpful. So by careful design, we can usually reduce the likelihood of the most of these mechanism applying differentially to the participant and conditions. That was a correct answer. Good job. So let's go with number 26. And Katie, can you do number 26, please?
If I'm being honest, I'm struggling a lot with this concept. Do you mind picking on someone else?
No worries. So let me pick up someone else. Victoria, can you do number 26? I just want to hear your answer. So I'll be, if you're wrong, I'll be, interrupting you to give, the choice answer. So which one do you think?
Did you still want Victoria?
Yeah,
Do you still want me to do this one? Okay.
Yes, please. 26.
Says consider the design described below in the tic-tac-toe notation. So the first row is ROX10, you have ROX20, and then RO-O. Use this as an example, describe the main elements of tic-tac-toe notation, and identify the design represented here. I'm still having trouble being able to fully understand each of the things. I'm still not sure what R is, but I know that so you have the O is the observation. So the first row you have R, then you have the observation treatment 1, and then you have your post-test, which is another observation. And then the second row has a different treatment, and then the third row has no treatment at all.
Okay. Let me actually go ahead and stop the share. Let me share the answer that I have written down so everyone can see it. Share screen. 6 review questions. Okay, so can you guys all see number 26 answer?
Yes.
Okay, so each row of the diagram represent a single group of subject and experiment. So the N on the left of each row says that these are non-equivalent group. And the other possibilities here include R, if the groups are determined by random assignment, and C, if the groups are determined using a cutoff method. Okay, so the time moves from left to right in these diagrams. Thus, symbols that are vertically aligned should happen at the same time. Okay, the symbol O represents some of some form of observation or data collection for the participant in the group, and the symbol X represent some treatment, manipulation that is applied to the participant in the group. So this diagram represent a pre-test and post-test quasi-experiment with the three non-equivalent group, two of which received different treatments, and the third was non-treatment control groups. Okay, so that would be, you don't have to make this as wordy as I did, but this would be a good explanation for full points for this question. Okay, and for number 27, what are extraneous variables, and when do they become confounding? These variables are potential factors. And what do we mean by potential factors? Variables that can change the dependent variable, okay, that are not directly in the interest of the experimenter or particular study. And they become confounding when they are correlated with the independent variable in the study. And this is for number 27. Okay. Perfect. Let's go ahead and move to week 7 really fast. And go ahead and resume. So let me go ahead and share my screen. Okay, cool. Can you guys see my page?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So again, on your test, it's most likely that you will get the subject that you're not really familiar with, and it's going to ask you some questions that we have been working on throughout the lecture and the lab. So get used to the idea. So the main idea here is that you can understand what part of the the passage or the short article to pay attention on, and to be able to answer the questions in a most proficient way. So some of you guys, because I grade the test, some of you guys think that by being wordy and writing a lot of explanation and prolong the whole thing, you're gonna get some sort of points, but that doesn't really work, because I'm looking for main ideas throughout the lines, then I have to see those. Otherwise, no matter if you even write 2 pages, you're not gonna earn full points. So for question number 1, group 1, can some of you guys tell us what you guys come up with?
Sure. So for number 1, the design of the study is a single group design, and specifically it's a case study because there's only one person that's taking part. And so if you were to tic-tac-toe this, I guess you could write a special one where it's N for non-randomized, and then put a small 1 next to it to indicate it's only one person. And then you have treatment, which is X, and then E for experimental treatment, and then finally O for the outcome. And then for the independent variable is the treatment used, and so it was covert sensitization, and then the dependent variable is the amount of shoplifting that the woman did.
Okay. That's one way to go. Let me go ahead and share my answers. So that's correct, but in order to earn the full point, your explanation needs to be more thorough. So for number one here, so again, you were right about, this is the case study. And so for the tic-tac-toe notation, we might describe this design as OX, 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 O. And, the O is the intended, you have to describe, what you do, thoroughly. So to make us really, understand and give us that sense that you understand the material. So even if you decide to go short on the explanation, you just have to, convey us about the main ideas that we're looking for. So the initial O is intended to indicate that this is an implicit, not a formal observation. And the independent variable is the covert sensitization therapy treatment. And it could be considered to have only a single level, and excuse me, go out. So, and then we can consider the effect of the treatment, to be cumulative. Then the independent variable, should have 4 levels, the amount of treatment each week that we are giving out. And the data, however, should be reported. That does not appear, the author, what am I saying? So I'm just gonna read it. However, given the way the data are reported, it does not appear that the author had this in mind. So the dependent variable is the amount of self-reported shoplifting. So something like this, not exactly, but something like this that convey us about, give us a sense of, that you understand the main idea, you feel comfortable. It's not wordy, it just gets right into the main ideas that you're looking for. Could give you, you could earn this way the full credit. So another thing is that I just want you guys to realize is that TAs do grade your short answer questions, but we are not, we are flexible to some extent because we have a outline that Dr. Loughran gave us for grading short answer. So we need to see those points, and then the outline works. Okay, if you didn't see this main idea, deduct this amount of points. If you didn't see this, deduct this amount of points. So we could be flexible as long as you give us the main ideas and sense that you understood, you know what I'm saying. So for question 2, let me go ahead and stop. So question 2, what do you guys think about question 2? What answer did you guys come up with?
We said
So
that
what are the evidences provided in the summary?
We said that the evidence provided in the summary that states that the treatment caused an improvement in the women was the idea that the thought of shoplifting was normally accompanied by an unwell feeling, which would go away as soon as she walked away from the object. And the fact that the researcher also described, or like it was self-reported, that she stole only 4 objects during the entire treatment period of 8 weeks, and then only once 19 months after the fact. However, evidence that was kind of lacking that would kind of make it so we don't think that covert sensitization was the main root cause was the idea that there was a lack of multiple trials, therefore we don't have a generalized study. And then the fact that it was just her, and also the idea that hypnosis was also used, because that could also be the main reason as to why she didn't like shoplift as much.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good answer. Let's go ahead and see mine for completion. So for number 2, when determining, whether the experiment is covered sensitization treatment, whether this, treatment caused the woman to reduce her shoplifting behavior. This really means we are asking about internal validity. So, and 3 conditions must be met. So I highlighted this because you have to explain it in your answers. 3 conditions must be met to make a causal inference that covariation between the cause and the effect, a time order relationship, and the elimination of the possible alternative causes are in place to we can for us to claim that this treatment was the causation for this woman that reduced the shoplifting. So the first 2 conditions, as I think John or Jerry, I forgot your name, said that they are met. So the condition 1, the woman seemed to get better during the course of covert sensitization therapy, and number 2, improvement began after the therapy started. So those are the 2 improvement that shows. However, many alternative explanations for her improvement are still possible that is not covered. So, and then I use an example. And at the end, to give a final result, the main idea is that, the case for the causal relationship might have been more convincing if the data on the shoplifting during the treatment had been reported by the week rather than in a summary form. So that would give it a more reassurance and re-emphasizing result that we can trust the data. So but the answer that he gave was absolutely correct. So number 3, group number 2, what do you guys think about number 3? Number 3 says evaluate this experiment in the terms of conclusion, construct, and external validity. Nika, stop. Number 2, group number 2, who's going to present your result? Come on, guys.
I can do it. Okay, so conclusion validity. Conclusion validity is the degree to which the conclusion we reach is credible or believable. I think that the result is believable since the sensitization method seems to help the woman's condition. Construct validity, the extent to which the woman stealing behaves with the hypothesis that feeling of nausea will arise when stealing, because she did condition herself to feel nauseous when stealing, and therefore stopped because of it. We said that there was construct validity. However, it's hard to tell that there aren't any other variables also influencing this, so we can't say it's that completely. And then external validity, I don't think this study has good external validity since it is a very specific case that applies to the woman. Maybe this method works on her, but does not work as well for others.
Okay. Yeah, perfect. That was really good. I have nothing more to add to that. So number 4, consider the ethical issues raised by this study. What do you guys think about this? The ethical issues. This was a part of our last midterm sheet.
Yeah, so we said, well, one good thing about this study is that it keeps her identity a secret, even though it gives her description. But we did say that hypnosis treatment in the last 2 sessions may have potential side effects, such as anxiety or headaches or other thoughts that can arise from it. She was asked to think about nausea and vomiting several times a day, which can also lead to anxiety or even could potentially result in her brain vomiting for no reason at random times. She might like lose control over those thoughts. And then one thing I was thinking of was whether or not the therapists, if they're aware that the crime is going to happen in the future, if they should have reported it or not. But I wasn't sure about that one. So.
Okay. Yeah. It appears that this is a report of observation made as a part of the normal course of treatment of a patient, rather than being having this treatment given to this patient specifically to the study of its effects. But that was what you covered was absolutely correct. Cool. Any questions, any concern, any comments about? So we did this in order to give you guys a sense of understanding of how the test is going to be. It's going to be, you will have some of this questions about related to the article, the short passage or something. So it's going to be unfamiliar, but we use your technique that we covered in previous lab in order to tackle those problems. Any questions, any concern before I move on to something that I think it's important for your test? Okay, our class finish, our lab should be finished at 5:50, right?
Yeah.
Okay. One thing that it's really important for you guys to understand and to know is the main effects and the interaction. You will have some of these questions on the test, so it's really crucial for you to understand it. And I made the PowerPoint, here that we're going to cover. If you went over the lecture and you feel comfortable with this, you don't have to stay. But if you are uncomfortable and you don't know about the interaction, determining whether there is an interaction in a graph or in a bar graph, or giving you a chart or histogram, then you probably want to stay. But if you feel comfortable, then you should be fine. How do we know in the data that we're given, or in a graph that we're given, whether there's an interaction or whether we do have a main effect in either of the variable or not? And how do we pick that up from the graph? So before I jump into this, because of the time, I'm not going to be able to go into much detail. So I thought the best way to get you guys introduced to the material is to just watch about 5-10 minutes of the lecture recording. I found it incredibly helpful because she covers it one by one. And then we're going to come back and then we're going to go over this together, and then you guys are free to go. So let me go ahead and
I have a question. What are we supposed to turn in for the lab?
For the lab, we are gonna do a. Actually, I'm not gonna ask you guys to turn in anything. I'm gonna open up the link under assignment, and then you just have to, give me your names. That's it. Just type in your names and then submit it, and so I know that you attended today's lab. So nothing in particular. It's not open yet. I will open it right after the lab, and it's going to remain open until 11:59 tonight. So what I need you guys to do, just go under for week 7, type in your name, submit it, so I know, and that's it. There's nothing that I need you guys to submit. Okay. Okay. So.
Sorry, if they're opening the assignment after the lab, and all we have to do is type in our name.
Yeah, the link is going to be open on the Canvas lab page right after the lab, right after we finish the meeting, and it's going to remain open until 11:59. You just have to go on there under week 7, type in your name and then submit, and that's it. Okay, cool. Give me 1 minute. She's biting everything. Let me. She chewed a bit. Okay, so let me go ahead and cover the interaction. This is really important. So on your own time, don't take it lightly. Go over the lecture, study it, so you feel comfortable with the material. So my Canvas page. Okay. So you can find this here under today's date. So lecture 7, part 1. So I already have it loaded. So let's watch this together. And I will interrupt it when I felt necessary. So let me know if you can hear the sound or if there was a glitch.
All right, so we're going to look at some hypothetical data, and these are means, just like we were just looking at these numbers, correct. These happen to be larger numbers. In one case, we have a factor A, which has 2 levels. Okay, when we were just looking at the face data, we had 2 levels, which was the male pictures and the female pictures. This is just factor A has 2 levels. Factor B has 3 levels. That would be like what we were just looking at. We saw 3 levels.
So just to mention, what do we mean by levels is that how many data that we have for each of the variables. So we say for A, we have 2 variables. For factor A, we have 2 levels. And by levels, we mean 2 kind of variable for A. So we have 2 levels, A1 and A2 for factor A. And for factor B, we have 3 levels. And by level, we mean that we have B1, B2, and B3 for factor B.
Of which part of the face you were looking at, full face, eyes only, mouth only. So this is some other factor that has 3 levels.
And the data that we are covering right here is the hypothetical data. So it's on this lecture, she covers the data for the previous lab, with the hijab that they considered studying with 3 different independent variable that they showed eyes, they showed mouth, they showed forehead in order to identify the race. But the idea is the same.
So we have 2 factors and 3 levels of one and 2 levels of the other. There's 6 levels in all that we're looking at. And the way you look at a chart like this is notice that factor B has 3 levels, B1, B2, B3. Factor A has 2 levels, A1 and A2. And then there is this mean value in here for each of these. So we kind of saw those kind of values. We could break them out of the previous experiment. Right, so we are now going to try to look at the main effects and interactions. So you start off by looking at what we call the marginal means for each effect. So all the times that you ran A1, factor A, condition 1, the mean overall is 50. That is the average of 42, 55, and 53. That's the overall mean when you run factor A, condition 1. When you run factor A, condition 2, you get the overall mean of 58. So you're averaging these 3 values together. when you're running factor B, which would be, eyes only, whatever you're using as your factor, you have to average together the two values it has for A1 and A2, and that would be a 46 on average. B2 would have a 59, and B3 would have a 57. Okay, so these are the marginal means for each effect. So the main effect is if there is a difference between these levels of a factor. Is there a difference between these marginal means? So your marginal mean for A1 is 50, your marginal mean for A2 is 58, and so you would say, yes, there is a main effect for factor A. Is there a main effect for factor B? Well, you have 46, 59, and 57. So you have a main effect of factor B. So both of these are factors are having main effects.
So what is main effect? So it's gonna, if we gave you this data right here, so you have to calculate the mean, marginal mean. What do we mean by marginal mean? Is that, so you go for factor A for the level 1. So for A1, you add this up, divided by 3, you get 50. For A2, you add this up, there's 3 items, divided by 3, you get this mean. We see that there is a main effect, and how do we determine that? We see that there is a difference between the two levels of A. So we have 50 and we have 58. There's an 8 difference between the mean, and then and this is for the factor A. So there is a main effect for variable A, and we also see that there is a main effect for factor B because we have a different mean. So there are mean effects. So the main effect is the consistent difference between the levels, so A1, A2, or B1, B2, B3, between the levels of a factor. So the difference between the means. So that's where it gives you, okay, we do have a main effect or we don't have a main effect. So if we gave you this data right here, you should be able to calculate the main effects, whether there is a main effect in the data or there's no main effects in the data.
These are factors are having main effects. So to look at how big the main effect is, the size of the main effect, we have to take the difference between the mean of everything and the means of these marginal means. So if you took all these values and averaged them together, you would get a 54. So all these conditions averaged together. So you could take all 6 of these and average them, or if you wanted a shortcut, you could average these 2 together, or you could average these 3 together. Everything you do like that would give you a 54. So that is the grand mean. And if you want to look at the effect size, you have to look at the difference between each of the factor levels and this grand mean. So the effect size of factor A1 is -4, because it's 4 less than the grand mean, and the effect size of A2 is +4. Each of those just is the difference between its value and 54. And you have effect size for each of the B factors.
So
again,
so now there is a difference in the question, so that's where you have to be careful and read the question thoroughly. One question we could ask is that, what is the main effect? Is there a main effect? And then so you calculate the mean and you try to understand, try to see if there's a difference between the mean, and then so that would give your answer whether there is a main effect or there's not a main effect. Now the second question is that we might ask you that, what is the size of the main effect? Okay, And in order to figure out the size of the main effect, then you have to come up with the grand mean. And what do I mean by the grand mean? Is that you have to add all the data that you have. So in this case, we have 6 cases. You have to add them up, divide them by 6. You come up with the grand mean, right? And then once you came up with the grand mean, you can use the each individual level means, for example, for A1, and see how much of the difference you have with the grand mean, and then report that size. So -4, it's going to be the size of the main effect of A1, plus 4, it's going to be the size of the main effect of level 2 for A, or A2. And we deduct this by the grand mean. So 50 minus 54, it's going to give us -4. 58 minus 54 is going to give us +4. We're going to do the same thing for the B factor mean. 46 minus 54, it's going to give us -8. 59 divided by 54, it's going to give us +5. 57 minus 54, it's going to give us +3. And these are the effect size, or the main effect size, that if you were to ask. Now, there is a easier way to find a grand mean instead of adding all the data points. Even if you have the marginal means, if you already figured out the marginal means, you can just use the marginal means to come up with the the grand mean. Okay, so you add them up. You add these means up. This 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 means. It's a marginal means that we call, and you divide it by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Take
Which gives you
this value, this mean of B1, and subtract from it 54. So the effect size of B1 is -8, B3, factors A and B.
And then there are, and then we're going to ask you, there are main effects of both factors A and B, true or false. In this case, yes, it is true. So there are main effects, both factors A and B. How do we figure that out? We see that there is a difference between the means. Yes, that would give us the main effect. Okay.
Factors A and B. Now, there is an interaction when the effect of one factor changes depending on the levels of the other factor. Okay, that's complicated to think about, so we need to work through that. So when we
So for the interaction, we don't use marginal means or the grand mean. For the interaction, to be able to tell whether there is an interaction or there's no interaction between the data, or between the two factors, and there are different levels, we are working in with the inner data that we have. So we don't use the means, but we use the inner data. So let's see how this works.
At your mean for B1, it's difference between that, each of the values. So B1A1 minus this mean is -4. B1A2 minus this marginal mean is +4. B2A1 minus those marginal mean, -4. Okay. A2, B2 minus the marginal mean, +4. And so B3 is the same pattern. Okay, so all 3 of the levels of B give you the same effect size. So what can you conclude? Well, it's independent of what the level of B is, so you don't have an interaction. Right, there's no interaction in this case. Now we're going to take the differences with these marginal means. So 42 minus 50 is negative 8. 55 minus 50 is plus 5. 53 minus 50 is plus 3. Same thing using the 58 here. And here we have these different effect sizes. And what do you find? Because these are still the same, again, no interaction. So we have.
So let's see. So in order to tell whether there's an interaction or there's no interaction, for main effects, we use the marginal means. For interaction between the two factors, we are using the inner data that we have. So in this case, for factor A, for the level 1, we said, okay, let's do 42 minus the marginal mean. It gives us negative 8. 55 minus 50, it gives us plus 5. For 53, it's going to give us plus 3. And then we're going to do the same thing here for the second row, or the level 2 for A2. And we see that these numbers they all match. They are all same thing. So for the level 1 and for the level 2, they all match. So when there is an interaction, it's when the effect of one factor changes depending on the levels of the second factor. We don't see that here. The numbers are the same. If the numbers were different, we would say, yes, there is an interaction. But since we don't have any changes in the numbers, then there's no interaction.
The same values, and it doesn't matter which way you go, you will have no interaction. So we still at this, these are still the same values, but now we're subtracting going the other way. Okay. And if we plot this, we have, here is the A1 values, here are the A2 values, the blue are the B1, the green are the B3, and the blue are the red, I'm sorry, are the B2. So we've plotted these same values, and when you look at these, and you can see they never cross, and if they continued out to, into infinity, they still would never cross. They are not, they're parallel, so they're not interacting, and parallel lines are consistent with no interaction.
So again, we see that these lines, they do not cross each other. Even as we continue to the infinity, we see that there's no chance that these lines will, interact, or they will cross each other. So that would be tells us that there's no interaction. Now, if you saw the line that there was a chance that they would interact, or they would, cut each other off, then there would be an interaction. But in this case, since the data that we have for the B1, B2, for B3, we are, evaluating these variables right here for the B factor, we see that these are all parallel, because, the difference are all the same number. So as we saw earlier, there is no interaction. And this is the graph proof.
If you plot it the other way, see here I've put A1 and A2 on the x-axis. Now
if you do it, if you plot it the other way, if you put the A1 and A2 on the y-axis, you see that it changes the data, because we have 3 variables right down on the x variable, but still the distance between these 2 lines are the same, and it keeps the same as we go through the x-axis, and they will never interact, or they never cut each other off. So it's going to be no interaction.
Here's A1 and A2 looks different. That line does the distance, and then here's B1, B2, and B3.
And then for this kind of graph, for the bar plots one, it's the same data, still there's no interaction. And how do we know? Is that the distance between the red bar and the green bar, this distance is the same for the second variable too. So this is for A1 and this is for A2. And the blue is the B3, the green is B2, and the red is B1. So we see that between B1 and B2, the distance is the same. Here, the distance is the same. So, and then between B3 and B2, this distance are the same. So there is no interaction here. Same thing here. So if we change it, instead of doing the A1 and A2, we put B1, B2, B3. We see that, A1 and A2, the distance here are all the same. So there is no interaction here. So we don't have enough time. We are out of time. But this was the main idea that I wanted you guys to understand. So there are two worksheets that I want you guys to do. It's a good practice for your exam. So if you go on the Canvas page, disconnected from the charger. So if you go to the main Canvas page, under week 7 lab material, we have two worksheets right here. And then we have the PowerPoints about the main effects. This is kind of more explanation. And then we have main effects 1 and main effects 2. These are the exercises that I want you guys to do and try to come up with the answer. So there are 4 questions, and there are A, B, C, D, and E graphs and data sets. And you have to match it with the 4 answer key that you have. And one of them, it's not a good match for any of this. So the main effects, A, whether do we have the main effects A? Yes. Or do we have main effects for the B? Or is there interaction? Yes or no? So which of this data give you the main effects that is yes for A, and it's also yes for B, and there is no interaction. So you have to figure out between A, B, C, D, E, which one is the best choice that explains main effects. Yes for A, yes for B, and there is no interaction. So I want you guys to work through it, through this. Look at the lecture. I will post the answer key for this right now, right after the lab, under week 7, and I will post the recording for our today's lab. So that's all for today. So there's both of them. There's one right here, and also there is another one, the B, right here too. So these are good practice that I want you guys to do. It gets you ready for the exam. So if you felt comfortable, then you can take it easy. But if you didn't feel comfortable about this, I would highly recommend you guys to watch the lecture, read the book to understand it further. Few things, submit your names on the link that is going to be available in like 10 minutes. Under week 7, I will post the answer keys to these 2 practice questions. And then I will try to hold additional office hours on Thursday. You can come in, or I'll open my Zoom so you can drop by, ask any questions. That's all for today. Any questions, any concern, any comments? No?